Hello, Salt Strong Nation. Joe Simons, Lake Diamonds.
And Luke Simons.
If you guys are listening on iTunes or Stitcher or Spotify or any of the amazing places you listen to our podcast, you might not know that we're in the back of Luke's yard. If you missed the last podcast we did together, we lost our camera and we did not recover it, if you are asking. I already got a couple emails from you. Yeah, that was a painful lesson.
So brand new camera too.
So we got a brand new camera, first time.
Hopefully it looks real nice.
We're actually using this. And if you are, of course, watching this on YouTube or any of the other interwebs, you'll notice that we are in Luke's yard. We decided on this first one, let's not even give it any chance that this might fall in the water. I think our biggest risk here is stepping on Otis's poop, which I almost did in my boots already.
Couple landmines.
Couple little landmines here. So guys, this one is all about top spots maps. We're going to talk about the pros, the cons. We're going to talk about a couple other options. We're going to talk about, you know, what we got out of these when we used to use them. I had to go buy this today. This is how many times have we bought?
I bet we probably have at least 4 of them. We just keep losing them. They're probably somewhere. They're probably still in one of my boxes. I just moved over here. But yeah, so we'll talk about the trials and tribulations from using these. They have some excellent pros.
Yep.
They also have some cons, and so we're going to cover that with full transparency on everything.
Yep. So let's get right into it. We've got a top spots map in our hands. I don't know the whole history of top spots. They've been around for a long time. Luke and I both can recall as kids, way before we could drive, going with our dad, and we were pretty, I would say, addicted or hooked on these things. That's probably the better word.
100%.
And meaning we almost kind of thought like this was just as important as our bait or our rods or reels, right? I mean, it was like something we would actually, like, we couldn't leave without. We'd actually go home or have to buy a new one if we forgot it. It was our GPS. Like, this was what we used to be able to go fishing.
Yeah, and for those who don't know about it, let me just throw the cover out. So basically these are maps that really do 2 things. And number one, it's a map of the depths. So you can see this is Tampa Bay. It's actually kind of the St. Pete area where I moved. So you can, I'll come in close there. So you can see the depths, you can see the channels, you can see where, where some of the shallow zones are, right? It'll be highlighted in green. Hey, don't drive a boat there. But then it'll also have these red shades with numbers that explain, what these red shades. The red shades are fishing spots that they mark, and then there's a number table, right? So there's a little table. All the numbers correlate back to the table to show, what species can be caught there throughout the year. So it is pretty handy, and we really relied on this both for navigation and for finding the spots. Like this was literally, we use these a lot. The problem though is a false sense of security. So that's like, I'll say, yes, it is great. Helped us out in the early years of learning saltwater fishing, but it was also a big problem in the fact that we were just so dependent on these that we thought, okay, if we have this is all we need, right? We have this, and now we need a bunch of lures, and great. But the problem is that we never did, the thing that was missing the longest, and the thing that actually got me away from these maps eventually, is actually incorporating the weather, not just the tides, but the weather, the tides, like the wind direction, tying in all of that to the spot selection. Because if you don't do that, no matter how many GPS spots you have or are given to you, it will not do you much good. And with the advent of online maps, like we were using these back before.
I was going to preface that with saying, for those of you that don't know how old we are, if you're listening, we were using this way before online satellite maps like Google. That was back when Google was charging $500, to be able to have access to like what we would laugh at now. Yeah. So this was all we really had.
Yeah, and so, correct. And so I think a good way to use these, they are nice to have, the fact that they are waterproof, so you can take them out in the boat, and they can get sprayed, and it will not ruin it. It is just nice for navigation. Also, it can highlight some general areas to check out. But when I had I guess when we both had, the biggest revelation is when we started incorporating this with online maps as well, right? Because some of these shades are really big. Like this Boca Ciega Bay, right? That's a big shade mark. That's like over a mile, right? So it's impossible. If you want to go catch trout in this zone, that's a really big zone. And so I would use online maps like Google Maps or MapQuest back then, now Google or Bing, to then look at the satellite imagery to go and find, the actual grass lines, where you can see the depth changes, to go, in that mile range to identify small little sections that have a good amount of unique forms of structure.
But that's still not enough.
Correct, but it's much better than just the map, because this is such a large range where it's truly a guessing game. It'll take all day long just to try to fish this one little zone, and they have so many zones. I mean, it's almost like you probably don't even need it at all.
Which is why, for the record, we don't use these anymore.
Not anymore, yeah. This is great for beginners and good for just navigation in spots in areas you've never been to before. But as far as I think the biggest mistake that we made was putting too much emphasis on things like this and not enough emphasis on really thinking about, incorporating our spot selection with the season that we're fishing, with the wind direction, which is something that most people don't think about at all. We didn't for many years, and obviously the tides as well, and then prioritizing those based on the season.
So the number one question that all of you need to be asking if you really want to become more consistent when you have something like this, or if you're one of our insider members and you get to see where we fish every week and all of our dissections, or if you're with a full-time guide, which I encourage all of you to. If you go out there with a full-time guide, ask this question: why are the fish here? Yep. Right? Why? Just asking that why, you will get a wealth of information, right? And a lot of these points or these spots, they're static, right? That's why we don't really use this, because they're just points on a map, right? Like, yeah, I could say the same thing for 20 bucks. It's just a bunch of GPS points. Fish move, right? Fish move. We talk about a fish move every single tide cycle, and a lot of these points are done by captains. But the best thing, if like you had a captain friend or someone who's really good, is to maybe get on a map like this and say, hey, like, why is that area in Boca Ciega good, right? And let them start telling you. Then all of a sudden it starts like getting a whole lot easier. And then when you can tie in the tides, right? Correct. And the wind and the weather, and just knowing what the trends are, which is what we teach in our Insider Club, then man, it's like, the puzzle's never completely solved as fishing. We've had guys like C. Richardson and Peter Deeks, and just some really amazing anglers who still say they're constantly learning. We have many full-time guides in our Insider Club for that same reason. They're constantly putting the pieces of the puzzle together.
That's the cool thing about fishing.
You got it. But man, you can basically leapfrog your friends and put a whole lot more pieces together quicker when you start concentrating on trends and on the why versus just, hey, show me some spots. And we see it all the time in both our Facebook group, which is like now 65,000 or something crazy, and even with our Insider members, which is now over 11,000, we still see it in there when a new member comes in and says, hey, I'm fishing, Sarasota or Port Aransas, Texas, or whatever it is, and I'm looking for some spots. And obviously we're incredibly nice to our Insider members, and we coach them and guide them down that right path to understand the why, right? And I remember we had a guy recently, Luke, he said he was taking his family, I think it was like Hilton Head. It was like 3 months from now. Mm-hmm. And we gave him like amazing advice of like, hey, here's some spots. Like we gave him an area.
Some general ideas.
However, let's reconnect on this when it's about a week or maybe 4 or 5 days ahead of it, where we can actually look at the weather, right? To look at like really what's happening. To look at the trends, not just, hey, here's a couple spots, right? Because otherwise these fishing guides, I mean, they basically sold their spots to top spots, which is fine. And they did it because they know the truth, is that those are just GPS spots, right? It's why fishing guides still stay in business, even though they're taking out clients to their best spots 200 plus, 300 plus days a year in some cases. It's because they know it's all about the trends. It's all about being able to predict where those fish will be, not just relying on a handful of GPS spots.
Yeah, and how I often explain it to our new members is that it's the type of spot based on conditions is 1,000% more important and more valuable than a spot. Like a GPS spot, great, it might work in certain situations, but in most it won't. But if you know the type of spot for specific conditions, then as long as you know the specific conditions, weather, tide, season, then you can have 1,000 spots that are all going to have a high, I can't say they're all going to be good, but they're going to have a high probability of being good because they fit the mold. They fit the trends on they actually fit the reactionary responses that redfish, sea trout, snook, flounder that they do based on the weather patterns. And so the big thing that we left out for many years is the actual weather. Like I used to only look at the tides in maps, right? And so now I focus more on weather than even tides. Weather is a huge factor, especially in the wintertime, but it really all season long.
Do you mean temperature, wind,
both,
everything?
Everything, yeah. I mean, temperature, I don't care about the absolute temperature, I care about the trending. So is it trending warmer, is it trending colder? And then also, you know, in the winter versus the summer, there's a different response to it. Because that's literally what causes fish to move.
Oh, I was about to say why.
Yeah,
and you just told me. See, that's all you do. You got a smart guy, and you ask him why.
Because that is literally, you know, in the wintertime, for instance, if a cold front just came in, the fish don't care what tide it is. They don't care what time. They're just looking for warmth, right? And so if you know the type of spot that is going to make the water a little bit warmer than everywhere else, I could care less what the temperature is. I don't care what the water temperature is. I don't even look at my temperature gauge. I just know the type of factors that create warmth in the water, and I'll look for those zones, and it's guaranteed that spot is going to be a little bit warmer than everywhere else, and that's where the fish are naturally going to go. And so once you know that, right, so I can just look at one of these maps, and based on the wind direction and the season, I look at the wind direction, look for wind-protected shorelines, look for certain depths, certain bottom contours that you can usually see from the maps, and bam, you got your spots. And you don't even need to worry about if it's a red shade or not, because that doesn't matter, right? It's based on the conditions, this type of spot is going to be better, so I can care less where the red shade is.
Did you get a chance to like look at this before we went live?
Yeah.
Like any because you fished this whole area, you've been living here for a while.
Yep.
Meaning
or
just
Tampa
just or
moved.
St. Pete, because this has both in there, right? This is what, Clearwater to.
This is Clearwater. I basically fished
Port Richey, Tampa.
Yeah, it has all Tampa
Bay.
So I fish now. I lived in Tampa for 4 years. I've been here for a while, or at least for a couple months.
Here, St. Pete.
And I fish Clearwater, and so I just kind of scanned it, and so a lot of the spots I have been fishing is actually on here, and I haven't referenced these in many years, but some of my favorite spots aren't. But again, it's all about the conditions, right? Some of my favorite spots are terrible if the conditions aren't well. But if it's the right scenario, it's going to be the spot to go.
Can you like pick out one and maybe talk about why this is correct? Meaning like take a point here in an area and say, hey, like this is a good spot during a certain season, and maybe during another season it's not. Do you have?
Yeah, I mean, like one would be, we can just look at this like Indian Key, right? This is a big key, and you can see it's just the whole thing is shaded, and it'll take, if you actually fish the entire circumference, that would take forever. It looks, you know, it's only an inch on the map.
Assuming you're in a boat with a
trolling
motor.
Yeah, it's only an inch on the map, but unless we're Dumb and Dumber, we know that's a long that's a large area. And so I would never try to fish this whole thing, right? So I would okay, yes, this might be a good spot, but if the wind's coming from the south, then okay, do I want the wind protected side, or do I want the windy side, right? And based on the season, that would determine my answer. So in the wintertime, I'd be looking for the wind protection. So I would just narrow my focus on the wind protected side based on the wind that specific day. And then I'll get on an online map and look for potholes. I'd look for any kind of like oyster bars, anything unique, and just start whittling down that red zone as much as possible. But I mean, just over the years, I don't even worry about these red zones, because you can just see, okay, what's the wind doing? Okay, let me just trying to find, like wintertime. Yep. Let me find some wind protected shoreline. Let me look for some depth changes, some oyster bars, just some unique cool stuff, some docks. And then I could care less if it's marked on this map or not. I actually prefer it not to be, because I know a ton of people have these things. And just go fish that. And it's shocking how effective that is. If you understand the way the fish move and why they move, then just applying some just basic map reading to an online satellite map is shockingly effective.
So let's talk about like smart fishing tides. I know you use that all that if you want to pull the phone out.
Yeah.
And show maybe some examples or something.
Yeah, and so in case we mentioned this, we started this a little while ago, because a lot of The problem with the weather and tides is that you have to go, I used to go from one app for weather, one app for tides.
Yeah, 3 or maybe 4 apps.
Some of them are slow. And
radar, sonar.
Yeah, so we started smartfishingtides.com. And for those watching, I'm just kind of zoomed in here. But what it has tide graph. And what you really need to focus on is current, wind speed, and this the trending weather, or trending conditions. So this has everything. So the core premise, this has everything in one stop, plus it has satellite maps that you can utilize to really zoom in.
Plus sonar now too, so you can see all this stuff, because this does show the depth, which is nice.
Correct.
And you get to see all that as well.
Correct, yeah. So it starts with the actual tide chart. Hopefully you can see, and then it'll, oh dang, so I'm getting too close here.
Oh boy, you pulled up one of your other apps. Oh, this is embarrassing.
I clicked a button there accidentally.
Oh boy, this is worse than the camera falling in.
Yeah, so it starts with the tide graph, so you can see the actual movement of the water, right? And the steeper the line, right? The steeper the line, that means the more current flow is happening, which is going to generally.
Oh yeah, that looks good.
This is generally going to have the most feeding. And then we scroll a little bit further up, and we have the hourly projection. So we actually show based on the algorithm.
Hold it front up a little bit higher so you see the colors there.
Yeah, based on the algorithm that we adjust very frequently.
Dude, we got to get out in the water in the next hour.
Yeah,
or so.
Yeah, making sure that it's as accurate as possible. For those who don't have, who only have a certain amount of time to fish, and that'll kind of show when to go. Then we have the radar, right? So today is super clear. There's no clouds. You can actually see the radar in motion. That is a huge safety thing, is to have access to a local radar so you can see which directions the storms are coming, especially important in the summertime when the lightning is the worst. For those in Florida, that is a huge deal. The actual wind direction on the ground is not always going to be the direction of the clouds. I learned that the hard way. And now we have a satellite map, right? So this is, we can zoom in. Whoa, we can zoom way in. Look for the oyster bars.
Move it up a little bit there.
Look for just unique things of unique forms of structure.
Oh wait a minute. Let me try to do that on here real quick. Oh whammy! I can't zoom in on here. That's why I think these eventually might go extinct. No offense, Top Spot maps, but
no,
but when you have all this stuff on a phone.
Yeah, before smartphones. Yeah,
and it seems to be getting, man, just more in depth every single year. It seems crazy how reliant we are. And man, I just went into the St. Pete Outfitters. What are they called? St. Pete?
Yeah, St. Pete Outfitters.
Yeah, great peeps. And bought this. And I mean, they had a whole wall of these things. So people are still buying these Top Spot maps. I mean, what other reason would you
I mean, the only reason now is in case my phone went away, in case.
Just to have, okay, I got it.
That'll be the time, because now we on this again. We teamed up with Navionics has an amazing platform.
Yeah.
It shows all of the same bottom contour that those smart fishing or those things have.
Zoom in back here.
But you can zoom in. You can see way more detailed, and in this case, it's all in one spot, right? This is like the all-in-one spot. So, in general, the reason why I have not been using these, the reason why we can't find the 4 of them that we already have, and we had to buy another one today, is because we really haven't been using them. Today's technology, just the amount of information that these phones have, and the fact that you can pretty much get internet access anywhere now.
Yeah.
Very, very important. But if I'm going down to the Everglades, if I'm going down 10,000 Islands for a camping weekend, which I'm hoping to do next month, I'm going to take one of those, because I can't trust that I'm going to have internet access out there. And so even for navigation, I will almost always just pull out my phone, just pull up the map. It'll show my pin location where I am, overlaid on a satellite imagery map. And I can just guarantee it's just shocking how accurate it is. I just watch my phone, and even driving at night, obviously you have to watch out for channel markers, but I have never hit a sandbar even when exploring new areas. Every week I go to a new area that I've never been to before, and when I'm going from spot to spot, I just use my phone to make sure that I don't run aground. And it is shocking how effective this is. And I put a video, in case you haven't put it, we'll put a link down below, but I made a video on just how to use the free apps, the free map apps on your phone to never hit aground, to never run aground.
You remember that one time we fished that tournament in Anclote, and it was 5 in the morning,
Yep.
Couldn't see a thing. And
neither of us had ever been there at night before.
So you were standing up. I was down below on the little cooler with it zoomed in, just watching us go, and you could see everything.
Yeah.
Pretty wild. Now let's give. We kind of beat top spots up a little bit. One nice thing is, we have Captain Dylan Hubbard, and one of our coaches. They also make some of these for some of the more offshore. Like this is more, and I know there's some on both, but I think they do have some like more offshore versions that do show a whole lot of wrecks and things way offshore, and it might be in here too on the back. I honestly didn't even look that closely.
Yeah, they have some. They have reefs on there.
Okay, so all the reefs are on here all the way like the middle grounds?
No, not that far, but the reefs within the range, so near shore.
So like Dylan had one in his office there, and it was a top spot map, and it was the middle grounds. And so that is nice because, obviously that's a whole nother podcast about having
can't use a satellite map,
having satellite phones and having safety, but you're not going to be able to have your normal, iPhone and zooming in and checking out, and nor would you do that in 200 feet of water anyways. But that is, I could see one reason Dylan said they still use that, for great reference point. But still, even then, he doesn't take one out. They've done the work, and they obviously have their own spots. What else? What else do we need to know about this?
Yeah, I mean, again, I hope we weren't bashing too much. They are helpful, right? I mean, for just boat navigation.
Bashed it pretty hard, man.
But for boat navigation, it's actually, I mean, this is my most trusted thing for boat navigation as far as a handheld map. But granted, I use my phone. But again, if I'm going to secluded areas that I've never been to before, I'm going to have one of these with me, no doubt, just for safety, just in case my phone doesn't work or I forget to charge my batteries, which I've done before and got stranded. So maps are really important to have. What I'm not going to use these for anymore is finding fishing spots, because these are great for beginners. Once you get intermediate to advanced, you don't need it, right? These spots are all going to be pretty general. These are the type of spots that get fished really hard, and the better spots are almost always going to be the smaller points that are the type of spot based on the conditions, that are condition specific.
It's not about the spot, it's about the type of spot, right?
And even fishing these big ranges, I mean, a lot of them are so big that...
Oh, especially if you're kayak fishing. I mean, once, like the Dumb and Dumber thing, it's only 9 inches or whatever.
According to the map, it's only 2 inches.
Yeah. But if you use this at all, I think what I'm hearing is it's for navigation and maybe a beginner to have a general idea.
Correct.
Right. Let's talk about that whole type of spot, because I want this to be super helpful as well. When we talk about asking why that was a good spot. And let's just talk about right now. So it's winter, even though it feels like it's 80 degrees and our sun's in our face right now. What kind of areas are you looking for on maps, not specifically?
Yeah, I mentioned before. I mean, it's really weather dependent, and even though that is the fact that
it's a trick question,
fact that it's winter time, and so just we'll preface the biggest mistake I see, because we have multiple online forums, is somebody will say, hey, I'm traveling somewhere. What are some spots to go to? Like where should I fish? And people give them answers, and my thought is that those answers are automatically not going to be very consistent or very trustworthy, because that person giving the answer doesn't know the weather that's going to happen, right? It's not saying or the tides, hey, what time are you going to be fishing, right? What's the weather doing? What the tide's doing? If that kind of stuff isn't incorporated, then any specific spot is not going to be trustworthy. That was our biggest mistake, is that we had some really good spots, but they were only good for specific conditions. And we never really dialed in those specific conditions for a really long time, and that was the missing link. And that's why we had inconsistent results, is because we didn't put the weather, tides, all that stuff into the equation. So as far as right now in wintertime, my answer right now, this is 3 days of warmth, right? We're trending warm. My answer right now will be totally different than 4 days ago when we had that cold front that went down to in the 30s, the first time we've had 30s all day. So when it gets super cold, as fishers out there looking for warmth, all I look for is just warm pockets. But now the fish are going to be moving up shallow. This is almost going to be more of a fall type stuff. And based on my recent trips where there's been a trending warm type scenario. Like I was fishing with some members 2 weeks ago. It was like 5 days of warmth, and the redfish were super aggressive and very shallow early in the morning, which is typically not a winter thing at all. But again, the weather was so unique, it really took it back to like a fall type period. So the long answer short is that I can't say in the wintertime you have to do this or you have to do that. It's really based on what the recent weather is doing. And that's why we started doing every single week for insider members. It's just called the Smart Fishing Game Plan, where we look at the weather, right? We do it every Friday. Look at the weather for really Texas all the way up.
We don't just look at the weather. We then tell you where to go fishing or what
based
type
on the
of
weather.
spot.
But we look at the weather and then give the game plan that you should be using to maximize your results, right? Because that basically guarantees that members aren't making the same mistakes that we made for many years, where we just went to the same spots, didn't even bother with the wind direction or anything like that, or is it getting warmer or colder? We just went to these GPS spots that we heard were good and went there, had some great days, had way more bad days than good days.
Yep.
And so that's what we do every single Friday. Look at the weather, put out the game plan, and then for those who only have, we do that's all in 10 minutes or less. So a lot of our members are just super busy. We do like a new post every day.
Yeah.
And so some of the feedback we got was, hey, I don't have time to go through everything. Can you just give me like a simple guide? And so that's been the answer that we provided, or the solution, I should say, and the feedback has been awesome.
It's huge. It's basically having a guide, 10 minutes every Friday, tell you, based on the weather, starting in Texas, and actually shows real spots in Texas, the kind of spots you want to fish, all throughout the Gulf, Florida, all the way up to really that Virginia line. I mean, basically tell you where to go fishing. So, take all the guesswork out of this, like take this whole map and boil it down to one type of area based on the weather and the tides and the trends that are working that week. And that's why we created the whole Insider Club, is because we were frustrated weekend warriors for 15 or so years, and it's everything that we wish was around, right?
Correct.
And ironically, we've attracted a lot of, 11,000 plus members, and a lot of them are weekend warriors. There's full-time guides in there, as I mentioned, and some newbies who are, just kind of tired of spending money on a lot of stuff they find out they don't really need.
Yep.
and just want to leapfrog their friends, especially ones like you. If you're listening as an insider member, it's all about saving you time. That's our whole thing. And of course, money as well. By the way, dude, what an awesome meeting today with the tackle. Can't tell you all the details, but if you're an insider member, oh, baby boy.
Watch out.
Woo!
Watch out.
So we all I can say is we already have pretty nice discounts on pretty much every major manufacturing company out there in the saltwater fishing space.
There's a lot that we don't, though, yet.
Yeah, but we have a lot of the big ones, and soon we're going to have pretty much all of them, if not every single one, and some much deeper discounts for insider members. If you're the public, man, I feel sorry for you paying full price. But anyhow, it's all about saving time and, of course, money in terms of the discounts. But if you want to save time and you want someone, a guide to answer that why for you, to answer why you should be fishing in a certain type of spot every single time you go fishing, and literally take you by the hand and show it to you.
Just showing, hey, here's the type of spot to go to.
Give it to you on a silver platter plate, then come join us in the Insider Club. Completely risk-free. You can find out more at saltstrong.com/pricing. We have a little pricing page now. You can learn all about it. Love to have you there.
And for anybody who has if we missed anything, or if we were being too harsh or being too nice about these top spot maps, please leave a comment down below. We're not affiliated with them. We don't benefit you by, or if you buy it or not. And so we'd love to hear your feedback. Nothing gets taken down. So if we missed anything, please leave it down below. And otherwise, thanks so much for your time and watching. And hope to see you on the Insider Club soon if you're not yet there.
What are you trying to do? Close out the video? That's not how you close out the video. Yeah. It's the first time podcaster over here. Oh my goodness. I guess last time the camera fell in the water, so we didn't get an official close. But guys, finally, we are going to keep doing more of these. The next one will be actually on the water. This time, actually that same day we lost the camera, we gave an offer to a videographer saying we're not going to do that anymore, going out with just a tripod. So the next one, we will actually have a videographer, and that way we get better footage, better lighting. I even see right now, there's a shade kind of covering part of your face, to make sure that kind of stuff doesn't happen, make it a little bit more interactive. So let us know what types of trips you want us to do. And we're even talking about going out with special guests like some other guides and just filming this stuff live. If you watch the last two, we are live just like this one, completely uncut, no edits, even when we screw up and say dumb things or camera falls in the water, etc. So let us know on our page, saltstrong.com. We have a place that all the podcasts are. You'll find this one as well if you're listening on the iTunes or YouTube or somewhere else. Let us know. And finally, please go subscribe to the podcast wherever you might listen to it. And if you're on iTunes, leave us a review. It means the world to us. As you know, these podcasts that we do are completely ad-free. And we're doing that because we don't want this to be just bloated with a bunch of ads and 7 minutes of us talking about some script of something that we may or may not even use. So anyhow, that's it. We're doing all this for you guys. Please leave us a review is all we ask in return, and then share it. If you like it, love it, and want more of it, then please share it with your friends, family, etc. Other than that, we be out, and we hope to see you in the Insider Club if you're not already there. That was it for this Top Spots edition. Peace!
Good stuff.
There's something about the water that'll give you peace, all by yourself or with your family. Live salt strong and where the